Hey, this is Matt from Alpha Analyst, and I'm excited that you're here to watch this new video on Microsoft Excel's ribbon. In this video, we're going to cover what is the Microsoft Excel ribbon, how do you use it, what are some shortcuts that you can use to save yourself some time, as well as some other additional functionality that I really hope that you'll find to be useful. All right, let's get started. So first, let's talk about the ribbon. What is the ribbon? So if we go to the top part of Microsoft Excel, you'll see that there are different headings here. So these headings are called tabs. The first one says Home. The second one says Insert, Page Layout, Formulas. So these are called the tabs. And as you click on the different tabs, you'll see that the commands that you can choose from, they change. So on the Home tab, you'll see that there is a group of commands called Clipboard. This right here says Clipboard. This right here, this is the font group of commands. This right here is the alignment group of commands. So each group has a set of commands that are somewhat related to each other. For example, for the font group of commands, you can see that they all relate to editing font. So this one right here, for example, changes the font type. This changes the font size. This can make the font bold. It can make it italic. You can underline the font. So these are all different ways to edit the font. Similarly, if you go to the alignment tab, this tab relates to how the text can be aligned in various different ways. So as you're trying to make sense of what the commands are, feel free to take a look at the group because that can give you a good sense for what they do. On top of that, let's say that you're looking at a command and you're not quite sure what it does. So let's say that you see something called Format Painter and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure what that is. What is the Format Painter? So if you put your mouse cursor on top of it, you'll see that it gives you a description. So it basically talks about how you can use the Format Painter to be able to copy formatting from one cell to another. So if you're not quite sure what to do with a particular command, just put your mouse cursor on top of it, and the tooltip will basically tell you what you can do with that particular command. So if you go to the bottom right-hand section of a particular group, for example, let's look at the font group. If you go to the bottom right section, you'll see there's a little icon right here. So if you click on that, you'll see that a dialog box pops up. A lot of the options that are here are things that you could select from the standard menu. However, this also has some other items that are not on there. For example, let's say that you want to strike through some text. You can do that from this menu. Let's say that you want to use a superscript where you have text that's higher up and smaller, and subscripts as well. So these are different options that you can use from this menu that were not really available from the previous menu. So if you're trying to figure out how to get to something, that's one way to get to some additional commands that you might not necessarily see on that particular group right there. One thing that we also want to keep in mind is that there are some drop-down boxes. If you climb over here back to the font group, you'll see that for the font type, it says Calibri by default. If you click this drop-down box, you can select from a wide variety of different fonts. You can do the same thing with the font size. You can do the same thing with the font borders, with the color for the cell itself, the color for the text itself. So if you see a drop-down box, feel free to click on it to see what the various options are for you. So now that we have covered some of the basic functionality, now let's start talking about some shortcuts that we can use. So if you hit the Alt key on your keyboard, you'll see that there are some shortcut keys that show up. So you'll see that for page layout, the letter P showed up. So I'm going to hit the letter P. Okay, now that the page layout tab is selected, it tells you there are various different options that you can select by typing in that letter. So let's go to the orientation. It's the letter O. So I'm going to type in O. And you can choose between portrait or layout. So not only can you change the portrait or layout setting by using your mouse, you also could use the Alt key and then hit P for page layout, and then you could hit the shortcut for orientation to be able to select it. So this is an additional shortcut that you could use if you want to, but if you prefer to use your mouse, feel free to continue using it. So that shortcut is nice to have if you like your keyboard, but let's talk about some shortcuts that are much more practical that could be very valuable and save you a lot of time. So if you go to the very far top left of the Microsoft Excel window, you'll typically see a couple of commands up here. So this command is Print Preview, and you might not see that by default, and you'll see that there's a save icon. So let's say that you want to customize what shows up right here. Let's say that you frequently want to use the page layout or save or some other command. Let's say that you use it very frequently and you don't want to have to go to that particular tab that has that command. Here's what we can do. So if you click on this down arrow, you'll see that it gives us a variety of options. So let's say that we want to have the undo or redo buttons show up. We can click on those items and they'll show up here. But let's say that we want items to go away. Similarly, we can uncheck them, and by unchecking them, they will go away. But this isn't the entire list of commands that we could add here. If you come down here to this section that says More Commands, you'll see in this dialog box that there are a wide variety of selections that we can choose from. So for example, let's say that you want the fill color to show up at that top section. You can simply click on that and then choose Add. And if you want to take something away, you also can take it away from this section. You can click on it and then click Remove, and that way you can basically add things to it on the right side and take things away and put it on the left side. So once you're happy with your selections, you can hit OK. And before we move on, I just want to point out that you can also use this drop-down box to select from different tabs. So this right here by default lists the most popular commands, so the commands that you're most likely to want to use. However, let's say that you have some specific settings that you want to pull in from the Insert tab. You can go to various different options here to be able to select other customizations that you can use. Whenever you're ready, you can click the OK button, and you'll see that the options that we selected, for example, we selected the fill option. Now that's showing up here at the top left. So no matter which tab that we're on, you could always come up here and you could change the fill for a particular cell by using this shortcut up here. So let's talk about something that's a simpler customization. Let's say that you want the Excel window, the background here, instead of being green, let's say that you want this to be a different color. So let's talk about how to change that. You can come over here to the File menu and you can choose Options. So once again, we got there by clicking on File and then Options. So now that we're here, if you come down to the General section, which should be selected by default, you can come down to where it says Office Theme. And instead of colorful, you could change it to something like dark gray. And if you click OK, you'll see that the overall color scheme changed. So if you want to change it back, you can go to File, Options, and then on the General tab, where it says Office Theme, you can change it back to colorful. But this is a way to change the overall scheme to make it look however you'd like it to look. Finally, before we finish, let's cover the context-sensitive menus. So you'll see that there's a picture right here. This is a picture of a ribbon. So if you click on that picture, you'll see that this section right here pops up. It says Picture Tools. So it's interesting that sometimes Microsoft Excel knows what you're trying to do even before you do. So once you click on that picture, you can come up here to Picture Tools, and this will actually allow us to make adjustments to this picture. I'm going to scroll out now so you can see a little bit better. So now that we have that picture selected, we can come over to the section over here that has a command that says Crop. So we can crop the picture to make it smaller. And then after we do that, we can come over here to the Picture Tools option again, and we can change the format of the border. So we can have a circle around it. We can have a thick dark square. There are a wide variety of different options that we can use. So if you are doing some work in Microsoft Excel and you see a little section pop up here, that's a context-sensitive menu that's basically taking into account what you're doing. So feel free to leverage that additional functionality as you're going through and using Microsoft Excel, because it really can save you a lot of time. So I hope you found this video to be useful, and thank you for watching.